Hello, I'm Adriana Malazzi. I am the community advocate for House of Possibilities. I facilitate the self advocacy group where we learn about advocacy and provide a well rounded knowledge of advocacy through a variety of activities and guest speakers sharing their lived experiences in the realm of inclusion and disability rights. This past July, we celebrated the 30th anniversary of the ADA, and we have a special guest today who helped make that happen and helped make uh, the laws that we have right now that allow people with disabilities to have equal opportunities. So I would like to present to you Judy Heumann.
Hello. How are you,
Judy.
Adriana? Thank you for asking me.
And, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. It's sunny out, not too hot, and I already took a walk, so that's good. Or a roll, since I use a motorized wheelchair just like you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Judy, for those who haven't read your book, and congratulations on your book. It was amazing, and I could totally relate to it. So Judy just published a book called Being Human. Um, can you just tell us a little bit about uh, the early days in your life and what it was like when you were younger before all these laws were passed?
How old are you, Adriana?
So I was 13 when the ADA was passed.
You were 13. Okay.
Yeah,
So
it was literally that month.
you were born in 1977.
Yes, when 504, right after 504 was passed.
And 2 years after the Educational Handicapped Children's Act.
Yes.
So I'm 72, and you're 43.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So there's a big difference, I think, in some ways, and then in other ways, probably not. When I was growing up, I had polio in 1949, and there were no laws. So there wasn't an ADA, there wasn't a 504, there wasn't an IDEA. And when my mom took me to school when I was 5 years old in the 1950s, I was denied the right to go to school because the principal said I would be a fire hazard. I used a wheelchair and ultimately didn't wind up getting into a classroom until I was 9 years old, in the middle of the fourth grade. And for the first, second, third, and half of the fourth grade, I had 2.5 hours a week of education. So now you can see that there is a much bigger difference. Before the IDEA, or what was called the EHA in 1975, there were at least 1 million disabled children not in school at all. So today, children are, by and large, in school in some type of a program, although frequently not in the most appropriate programs they should be receiving, and not necessarily getting the services they should get. But now we at least have a couple of laws that allow families to complain and have redress. But I would say one of the other really big differences between when I was growing up and now is now the effect of laws like IDEA, ADA, 504, and state laws, we see a much different infrastructure. And so, when I was growing up in Brooklyn, New York, there were no buses that were accessible. There were no trains that were accessible. And although it hasn't been an easy fight, the laws finally have been strong enough to require that all new buses are accessible, for example, all kinds of buses. And so that ultimately has made an important difference
Mm-hmm.
in that if you live in a city where they, or a community where they have buses, you can use the buses because they're accessible. Likewise for trains, although there's all kinds of litigation still going on against lack of accessibility as renovations and new train stations are coming up, and it shouldn't be like that. But, and I think the most important in some way is the fact that the disability rights movement is now a growing movement. So, in the 50s and 60s, slowly there was a movement evolving. And I think it's fair to say that in 2020 or 2020, we don't have a movement which is as strong as we would like, but nonetheless, it is a growing movement. It is much more cross disability, much more racially diverse, religiously diverse, etc. And so I think we're moving in the right direction. A lot more to do, a lot more to learn, to really be able to address our lack of knowledge about people who have different types of disabilities and how poverty and race have impacted on adversity for many people in the community, and needing to be able to speak much more powerfully as one voice to address many of these issues. But
Mm-hmm.
again, we're much further along than we were before.
Yeah. And I've been following along, as many have, um, throughout the celebration of the 30th anniversary of the ADA, and you have been doing many of these talks. And one of them that I attended was the one from the Boston Center for Independent Living, where you spoke with Sandy Hope, that we both know very well. And she mentioned how, in so many cases, it's when we're older that we learn about the movement and about you in general. So, I myself did not know anything that was happening when I was, younger. And I only learned about you later in life. And that happens to many disabled individuals. And it would have been great to have you and others that were with you as a role model growing up. Why do you think that is the case, that we don't learn about this in school?
Well, I think it's very fair to say that, as I was saying earlier, our movement, while being stronger, is still nowhere near most other movements are.
Mm-hmm.
And disability studies is something which is emerging on more college campuses with one or two courses or a minor. Very few schools are offering it as a major. And there are only a few states that are including disability history in what's going on in primary or secondary school.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't know leaders in our movement over the last 30, 50 years. I think in many ways, we also need to be doing better documentation, and we need to be looking at what we need to do to address what you're so correctly pointing out, which is the importance of disabled people seeing themselves, reading about themselves, learning about the struggles and successes that we've been advancing, and it needs to be reflective of the diversity of our community. So I think it's an important issue, and I do believe, that more people, including yourself, are really beginning to say, what more can we be doing in order to help ensure that disabled people in our communities who are doing, good leadership work are known, and that media, advertising, television, film, documentaries, etc., are inclusive of disabled people, our stories, and having them be authentic. Because I think that's another very big issue that we still have very limited representation of who we are in the media, which is where whether you use, whatever form of media you're using, there really is an absence of this. If you learn about the disabled people that are writing on Facebook, etc., you can find it out. But I think the vast majority of the 61 million disabled people in the United States, um, many of them don't even consider themselves to have a disability, and they're therefore not necessarily looking for a community to become a part of in a positive way. So we have a lot more work to do.
Yeah, definitely. Another thing that has come up often, and I've had this question myself, is when we think of the movement, we think of Ed Roberts and
Think of what?
Ed Roberts,
Uh-huh.
and we know Justin Dart, etc. And I knew about them before I knew about you when you played such a major role in that movement. What are your thoughts on that?
Women have been treated in a different way than men. And I think in spite of the fact that there are many strong women leaders around the country, people like Marka Bristow, who passed away last year, and many people in Massachusetts and other states. I think we need to be ensuring that the breadth of the voices of people who have been engaged are seen and known by our communities.
Yes, exactly. I agree. And so I think we will go to our member questions. So some of our House of Possibilities members came up with a few questions that they would like to ask you, Judy.
Great.
So here is Shannon, and she will be the first person to ask you a question.
Hey, Shannon.
Hi, my name is Shannon.
Nice to meet
I have a
you.
question. Nice to meet you too. I have a question for you.
Thank you.
Did you have difficulty making friends at school? Thank you.
You're welcome, Shannon. So, Shannon, let me ask you a question. Did you have difficulty making friends at school?
Yes, I did. Nobody wanted me. They just threw me off to the side. I wasn't want. I felt mad and unwanted. They said, "You can go over there. Go over there. You can't hang out with us. You not gonna make any friends at all in the future. Just just the way you talk. Just listen to yourself. You're not gonna make any friends. Nobody wants you."
How did you feel?
Horrible.
Did it get
But
better as
now,
you've gotten older?
yes, now because I'm at thank you to House of Possibility and all of the staff for making this reality, and I have actual friends I hope that I actually talk to,
Great.
and they let me do things with them.
And are many of
Now I
your
don't have to
friends,
sit
do you have, are you close with your family?
with my family. Yes, I'm very close.
Uh-huh. So I imagine that with your family and your cousins, did you have
Yes.
friends? So it's when you went to school
When I went to school in the past or now?
in the past.
Nope.
In the past, you had a problem.
Yeah, I've always had
Uh-huh.
problems making friends because everybody just hated me.
Yeah.
I thought I was
So
garbage. I'm not garbage. I'm a person. Treat me.
I know you're a person. Thank you. So, um, Shannon, let me say that, I didn't go to school until I was 9.
Oh.
So my friends were my family and my neighbors. And so, were you friends with some of the neighbors where you grew up?
Uh, I don't remember.
Okay. Well, I was friends with some of the people in my neighborhood. And then when I went to school, at first, my classes were with disabled children. And I had no problem with making friends because the kids had disabilities. When I went to a regular high school, it was more difficult to make friends because I didn't live in the same neighborhood. I think I had different problems than you did. I think people, sounds like, were very disrespectful of you,
They
right?
were. They didn't care. But when I got to Hope House, it was like, wow, a place for me to go to. I have Denise, I have Vanessa, and I exchanged phone numbers with Evelyn Petrosky. So
Good.
Hope House isn't just a program; it's an oasis
I don't know,
of love.
great
Because the
language.
teachers care about, the staffs care about you.
Hmm.
They don't just care; they absolutely love you in a different way, of course. I don't want
So,
to.
um, do you have more friends now in the community, or is it mainly
Yeah,
through the House of Possibilities?
it's mainly through the House of Possibilities. But
Hmm.
yeah, I have friends. That's what matters.
Right.
I want to
Well,
say
thank you
thank
for
you
your
to.
question. Oh, you're
You're
welcome.
welcome.
Thank you for your question.
Yep.
Thank
And
you,
I want to say
Shannon.
thank you to Hope House for
Take
making
care.
this possible. Thank.
You're welcome.
All right. Thank you, Shannon. And now we have Ben with a question. Ben, are you there? I don't know where Ben went.
I can read the question, Ben.
Yeah.
Can you
So,
drive and do I have a dog?
oh, there he is. Ben, are you here?
Hi,
There you
Ben.
are.
Bye,
Are
Ben.
you are you having technical difficulties this morning? Ben,
You want to try to get on again, Ben? Ben, you want me just to answer the question? Can you drive and do you have a dog? There you go.
there you are.
I'm back.
Nice to meet
So
you.
my name is Ben. I live in Mansfield. Nice to meet you. And
Thank you.
my question is, um, do you have a dog or do you have a vibe?
So, when I was growing up, I always had dogs. But honestly, since I've lived outside of my parents' house, one, for a number of years, I had a roommate who had a dog. And so the dog was kind of like my dog. But unfortunately, I don't have any pets now. And no, I don't drive. I drive my motorized wheelchair, like here, you know. I drive that all the time, just like Adriana. But
Uh,
I don't drive a van. We have a van, but I don't drive. Do you have a dog?
oh,
Ben, do you have a dog?
yes, I do.
What's the dog's name?
Yes, I do.
What is the name of your
I do.
dog?
The dog's name is Buddy and Buddy.
You know, I used to have a dog named Buddy. My mom and dad had a dog named Buddy.
You do?
It's a nice. They did. The dog died a long time ago,
That's
but
cool.
yeah, but we had a dog named Buddy. My favorite dog was a dog named Lucky. She was my favorite. Yep. So thank you for your question, Ben.
Well, that's
Thank
good
you,
name.
Ben.
Bye.
All right, and now we have Erin with her question. So, Erin.
Hi, I'm Ellen. What was it like to grow up in the 70s without any good handicap accessibility?
Great question. And it was difficult because at that point we didn't really have many. We had some in New York, curb cuts, ramps on the corners. But even there, many streets didn't have them. The buses and trains were not accessible, and shopping malls and restaurants and many places were not accessible, including the bathrooms. And so, it was really difficult. So I think that's one of the reasons why we really fought so very hard to be able to get good accessibility standards that would be implemented, because for those of us with physical disabilities, not having accessibility is a major problem. We can't really be integrated into the community if we can't, be guaranteed accessibility. Did that answer your question? Thank you.
Thank you, Erin.
Yeah.
And then we're back to Shannon again because Shannon had another question for you.
Hello, Shannon.
Hello, my name is Shannon again.
Yeah.
Why are there still workshops that do piecework today? And what is your current job?
So my current job is I own a small company and I do consulting. I do work in media and disability and public speaking, and I've been doing that now for a few years. And before that, I worked in the administration for President Obama. And then I had many other jobs. It was cool. And why are there still workshops? There's a lot of work being done to get rid of them, and more of them are closing. And I think it's a matter of time. But I very much believe that in the next 3 to 5 years, there'll be no more workshops doing piecemeal work.
But there's a problem. The Brockton area arc is a piecework, but they haven't shut that down. Why is that?
Um, I mean, the reason they haven't shut it down, I don't know. My presumption is, I believe, is because they're, I don't know the ARC program in Boston, but I think it's important, Shannon, that you and other people speak to the ARC about why they're still running this workshop. I presume they're going to say that there's work that people can do and it keeps people busy. But what's your feeling about sheltered workshops? What do you think
My
about it?
feeling is I've actually experienced this when I was 16 years old. I went with the May Center. It was dirty, disgusting. The staffs were very mean. Uh, older man that was in his 80s or somewhere, I don't know his name, took a tape dispenser and threw it at my head for no reason. So I went up to the
Well, there should
staff
never be
and
a reason for that.
I went up to the staff and they said, I said, just want to let you know, one of your clients threw a tape dispenser at my head twice. And know what they said? Go back to work. Go back to work. Go back to work. Why should we help you? Go back to work. Go back to work. we're busy working. You're not busy working. You are on your phone playing games. You are here to help the clients, not sit on your phone.
Did anything happen?
Then the client started crying. Ah, she threw the tape dispenser because he did it the second time, and I had it, so I had enough. So I took and I chucked back at him for self defense. And my teacher came and ran and raved at me, saying, "Why did you do that to this older man? He's an older gentleman. You should have respect for the elderly." Why should I have respect when he threw something at me? And it was gone way worse. When you're there, they have like a jar. You put it was like a lottery. You put your name in there, and they picked out the name. Oh, some people worked, and some people who didn't work sat there all day and did nothing. Staff will take one of the client's wheelchairs, like you guys. I don't want to be mean. They would like break the joystick if it was motorized, and they would go flying. Or if somebody was in a regular wheelchair, they pushed them across the room. There was no nurse, no medical help there whatsoever. Somebody was in a walker, they would rip the walker away and say, "You don't need the walker. Can you get up and walk yourself?" And it was terrible. There was this one person who had a whiteboard, and no way he wrote, help me, get me out." I said, and he was so sad.
Sorry. Did you report any of this? Do you know?
Couldn't.
Sorry?
Couldn't. I was with my old program. My staff won't let me report that issue, so I couldn't know.
Well, when did this happen?
When I was 16 years old.
How old are you now?
I am 24. I'm gonna be 24 this month.
So when you were in high school, they had you at the Boston Arc Sheltered
No, it's
Workshop?
Brockton area arc. There's an arc in Brockton.
But it was while you were in high school.
Yep. And they Mason and their staff was like, "This is where you're gonna be when you're gonna be 22, right here, because you have no future." I have a future.
Thank you very much for sharing this.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Shannon, for sharing your experience
Thanks.
with everyone. And now we have
Tanner.
we have Cathy from Hope House, who will be asking a question on behalf of Carl, one of our members. Carl.
Hi, I'm Cathy. I'm going to ask a question on behalf of Carl. He wanted to know, should everyone have the same rights whether they are disabled or not?
Today?
Yes.
I mean, the answer is yes. But that doesn't always mean that, I mean, we know, like in areas of transportation, personal assistance, other areas, job discrimination, disabled people have worse experiences than others. So I think it's fair to say that we are still really looking at both more effective implementation of existing laws, as well as the need to strengthen some laws like in-home community or long-term support services. Because you're in Massachusetts, right?
Yes.
Massachusetts is much better than many other states, but I'm sure there's more needs in Massachusetts. And I think, one of the issues is there are stronger programs or supports in some states than others. which makes it easier in some states than others to be able to live in the community and work. And I think obviously COVID is now having a very strong impact on disabled individuals like other people. And we'll see what's going to be happening in another year. But it's going to be really important, I think, for organizations like House of Possibilities and others really to be at the table now as decisions are being made regarding what's going to happen in the future to the communities that we live in. So thank you for the question.
Thank you, Judy.
Thank you, Judy.
Where are you?
Where am I? I am at
No,
the Possibilities today.
no. You were asking the question for
For Carl.
Carl. Where is Carl? I hear his voice.
Carl is not. Carl is actually not at the program today, and that is why Cathy is asking the question.
Well, nice to hear your question, Carl.
Thank
you. And so now we have Tanner, who will actually be asking a question on behalf of one other staff person, and then he will ask his own question afterwards. So here's Tanner.
Pleasure to meet you, Miss Heumann.
Thank you. Same.
All right, so I'm Tanner. I'm a staff member at the House of Possibilities. And on behalf of Anthony Onguleye, I would like to ask 32nd President Franklin D. Roosevelt had polio. How and why do you think he was able to become president?
Well, so Franklin Delano Roosevelt, I believe, had been the governor before he had polio. So he had some name recognition, and he was a very driven person. And he had obviously a lot of qualifications. And he was able to, in many ways, he hid his disability so that many people did not know that he used braces and crutches and sometimes a wheelchair. But he was very intelligent, and his family was also very political. And I think at the end of the day, it was his strength and his wife, Eleanor Roosevelt, who also was a very strong woman, and his experience running for office before he became disabled. I think all of those things together enabled him not only to win, but he had 4 times elected. So clearly, he's a very smart, strategic person who the country really, although many didn't know that he had polio, and that he used crutches and braces, they really admired the work that they were doing in helping the U.S. get out from under the Depression, and then the work that he was doing during the war. Second World War.
This is Anthony now. Sorry, Anthony.
Sorry.
I'd like to question away from you.
Hi, Anthony.
Hi, Judy. I'm so happy to meet you.
Thank you. Me too.
What a great job you have done and you are still doing. We are very
Thank
proud.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony. I'm sorry about the confusion. We weren't sure if you were on site or not. So now Tanner has his question that he wanted to ask you as well.
Yes. First things first, I would like to say, Adriana says that she's called this your answer, so we'll find out. I'm sure that the list of things you want to change for the better for disability rights is certainly not short. However, if you could possibly wave a magic wand and change one thing you think is the most important, most significant, most pressing, what would the change for disability rights for the better be?
A stronger disability rights movement whereas the 61 million disabled people, half of them acknowledged their disability and got involved in helping to make the changes we needed.
Yeah, that's pretty close to what Adriana said, actually. She said, change people's attitudes, hands down.
Yeah, and I think for me, it's obviously getting non-disabled people to change the way they think of us and view us. I also really think it's got to be a much stronger cross-disability, appropriately represented group of disabled people that are leading the charge so that we can not only get the laws that we have implemented, but get more funding for things like personal assistance services, sign language interpreters, other kinds of supports for people with different kinds of disabilities, and open the door so people can get jobs.
Amen. Thank you very much, Miss Heumann, and thank you for your contribution to making this country change for the better.
Thank you so much, Tanner.
Thank you, Tanner and Anthony. So Judy, one thing that we did not talk about in the beginning is Crip Camp, and I was just in awe of the whole film in general, just, you know, what people went through, and even reading it through your book as well. But what was that like, reliving it to make that documentary? What was that like for you?
So, you know, I was a part of the documentary. I wasn't one of the directors or producers. I'm friends with them.
Right.
So for me, being in the film was a great honor, and we interviewed, I don't know, 4 or 5 times in different places.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was really great for me to see my friends, Jimmy Lebrecht and Nicole Noonan and Sarah Boulder, their creativity, their ability to get support to make the film, Netflix picking it up in the Obama Higher Ground production. All of those things were wonderful. So it was really great to be a part of making a film that truly is a part of history in the US. And it's an important documentary, giving the views of many people reflecting what was going on at that time.
Yeah. And I know at the end there is a clip of you kind of reuniting with some of your camp friends on the former grounds of where you had camp. What was that feeling like, being there, you know, after all those years?
Honestly, when I drove from New York City to camp, and I did not know that the camp had been plowed under.
Oh.
So I went up there expecting to see abandoned buildings. And rather, I got up there and there were no remnants, really.
Mm-hmm.
The archway getting onto the property. So it was really, I think, very sad for me, because it was a meaningful part of my life. And I was thinking that it would be fun to be able to walk around the grounds and visualize memories, but that didn't happen. So, I mean, it was good to be there, but it wasn't what I hoped.
Yeah. So thank you again for taking your time out of your very busy schedule. I know you've been extremely busy, especially in honor of the 30th anniversary of the ADA. You've been doing your book tour. It was amazing that you were on The Daily Show with Trevor Noah.
It was a wonderful experience.
Yeah, do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Oh, that was great. Let me just say also about the book. So for people who like to listen to books. The book is read by Ali Stroker. It's an audio book, so you can also get that through Amazon, or some of the libraries have the books now and may also have the audio version, or you can ask them to get it. Being on Trevor Noah was great because I love Trevor Noah. I've admired him for years, and so
So do I.
being on a program with him was completely surreal. I think we had a fun time together, and that was great. So I will definitely remember that show. Definitely.
Yes. Thank you again, Judy. So her book is Being Human, and the film on Netflix that everyone definitely should watch is called Crypt Camp. And it just documents the whole disability rights movement. And again, thank you, Judy. And goodbye.
Thank you, Adriana. Thank you, everybody. Take
Bye,
care.
everyone.
Bye.